Hi, good morning everyone. Welcome to the session for ISO 27001 Lead Auditor Training Program. So this is shortly named as ISMS also, as far as the Information Security Management Systems requirement is concerned. Myself, Sandeep Pandya, I am conducting this session for ISO 27001 Lead Auditor. I am the certified lead auditor for the ISO LA programs like ISO 27001, ISO 22301, certified trainer for these ISO programs, as well as certified CISA auditor by SACA and CDPSA experts as far as the data privacy requirements are concerned. And performing the activities referred to consultation for the implementation of this requirement of ISO 27001 or ISO 22301, training and audit activity which is being performed by me. I'm having total 25 plus years of experience into this IT or IT infrastructure or security domain is concerned. Yeah, since last more than 10 years I'm working on the more towards the information security, governance, compliance, trainings and the auditing domains. So this is just a quick background about myself as far as a requirement of the InfoSec and requirement of the other compliances where I may have a exposure. Now, first of all, let's go ahead with the training agenda for today. So today's training agenda, it is referred to information security management systems, as I said earlier. So first of all, what is the information security? So which informations are required to be secured? Okay, so that's important for the organization. And that can be followed with the help of ISO 27001 standard. So understanding the requirements of the standards, what are the requirements, it has been defined by the ISO. Advantages of this management system, structured approach, which has been applied over here, so it can be easily adapted by the organizations. Understanding the purpose of ISO 27001, how it is going to be benefited to the organizations. As far as the responsibilities are concerned for the information security, so in a current trends, it should not be defined like that. No, only the specific segment or specific process only, or maybe department division only responsible for the information security. Ideally speaking, it's everyone's responsibility. But though, yeah, we need to identify that okay, how this roles, responsibility, accountability has been defined for the information security requirements. Later on, information asset classifications. What are the assets which are being used by the organization, which includes a physical as well as logical asset both, I mean to say services also, and how it has been classified further to ensure that those are protected. Other set of requirement is, ideally speaking, it's a end users awareness. How these best practices is being followed in the organization. So quite few examples like a password security, how the passwords are complex, secured, and it has been not being used by the the others. Okay, and not spam and malware protections. How this antivirus, anti-malware, anti-spyware, that kind of technological solutions are in place. What are the security parameters has been followed, security process has been followed for the emails, which is a business communication requirement for any organization. Clear disk and clear screen requirement. So ideally speaking, the information which is being kept or which is being available on the the user's disk or on a user's machine, how it has been protected. Mobile usage. So as current trends are increasing for the mobile usage in the in the information security requirements also. So how these information security requirements are being followed while mobile usage, okay, or how these mobile devices are protected. Social media usage. So nowadays companies, organizations, entities, those who are using the social media platforms for their support operational activities, social engineering activities, and the phishing. So how this this phishing email, phishing communication, phishing URLs which is being used, okay, and that may compromise the organization's critical or sensitive information. Physical security requirement. So how these premises, locations, offices, which are wherever the information security management systems applied, how it is protected, physical security requirement, how it is being followed, and the information security incidents. So the incidents which are going to disrupt, which is going to compromise the organization's critical information, and which may impact the organization's credibility, brand, image, maybe their customers' interest and all. So that can be also information security incidents. So how these practices are being followed in the organizations, and the users are aware about the information security requirements, that also needs to be assessed by the auditors. The other pointers are concerned, which is very much important, that is the ISO 27001 clause and the controls. So how these clause and controls requirements are being addressed in the ISO 27001 standard, that needs to be reviewed, and that needs to be even fulfilled by the organization. So wherever the ISO 27001 scope applies. So in continuation with that, before going to information security or information security management systems, first of all, we need to understand what are the informations which are important for the organizations and what is mean by the information. So information, which is an asset which, like other important business assets, has value to the organization, and consequently it must be protected to prevent any loss to the organization. So that information which is critical for the organizations, in case if it has been compromised, it has been intentionally, unintentionally, it has been shared to third party, those who are not intended for it, and due to that maybe there can be a impact to that organization's business operations. So those informations are important for the organizations. So information which has some business value. So just to summarize this, information which has some business value, and in case if it has been shared to any third parties, intentionally or unintentionally, but those who are not actually required that, those who are not intended for it. So what are those various types of the informations can be? It can be printed on a paper, so physical documents, stored electronically, like information transfer through technological solutions like emails, etc. Transmitted by post or electronic means, published on a corporate websites, the information which are made available in a public domain, so like internet websites or any blogs, any forums. Verbal, spoken in conversations, so the minutes of meetings, or minutes of meeting with the single party, I mean to say one-to-one, one-to-many, okay. So those all are the informations which are important for the organization, and that is required to be protected. Now, there may be some certain times it can be myths or misconceptions still. So whatever the form of information or by means which it's being shared or stored, it should be always appropriately protected. Now what are the myths or misconceptions can be? Maybe nothing is there on my system, everything is on a server, or everything is on a centralized system. Information security is IT's responsibility. Individual might be thinking on, okay, he or she is from different department, not from the information security department. So information security is only IT's responsibility. And maybe something like others, I don't have anything to contribute to the information security requirements. But ideally speaking, this is a wrong perceptions, wrong myths, and information security must be a responsible to each and every individuals of the organizations as per their roles, as per their responsibility, accountability and all. So we will look it into the other aspects of the requirement also, how these requirements can be addressed. Now these information security requirements can be addressed with the three core areas: confidentiality, integrity and availability. So information security is protecting the information security requirement through the preserving the confidentiality, integrity and availability, along with the supporting areas like authenticity and reliability also. So we need to understand these three core areas, or we can call them as the information security triad or information security pillars, core areas of the SMS. So how they are distinguished, okay, and what are the difference between these all three, that we need to understand. So information security triads. So what does it mean by the confidentiality? Information is not made available to unauthorized individuals, entities or any processes. As I was saying earlier, that information is not being shared. It is being protected. And information is not being shared to any other third parties, those who are not intended for it. Unauthorized accesses, it can be done with something like passwords. Password has to be not to be shared to anyone else. Encryption. Okay, in case of any data has been stolen, theft, if the data is encrypted one, it may not be accessible by the others, those who are not intended for it. Social engineering, maybe access rights. What are the access rights has been assigned to that specific information process. Secured storage, like a common storage, secured it has to be secured one. So only the authorized people may have the access to that specific storage area. Or we can call them as, we can say like a physical security requirements are concerned. Some confidential or sensitive areas are there in the office locations where may only a limited set of people can be allowed on that. So the information is not made available to unauthorized individuals or any entities or process or any third parties. So that is the requirement of the confidentiality. Now next pointer is integrity. Integrity is safeguarding the accuracy and completeness of the assets. Now this information is are accurate, is complete, which means it's not corrupted, not truncated, not manipulated, and data or informations which are accurate and complete. So how these controls are being applied to safeguard this requirement? Controls are like access controls. Controls like backups. So backups are being performed on a regularly basis. So in case of a requirement, backup can be restored. So restoration testing can be planned to ensure that the integrity of the data is exist and it's safeguarded. Next pointers are referred to availability requirement, asset being accessible and usable upon demand by the authorized entity. Like we have seen in the confidentiality, it was pointing towards the unauthorized access, how to protect the unauthorized access, how to ensure that no unauthorized access is being, requirement of the unauthorized access is being maintained, so that no one is going to access the information in an unauthorized way. Now these availability requirements are assets are being accessible and usable upon and defined by the authorized entity. Only authorized entity can access those informations and as per the requirement, as per that specific time window. So within the organization may have something, some plans like disaster recovery plans or redundancies or high availability in the organization. So in case of any primary sites or primary resource is failed, secondary site or secondary resource can able to deliver the services for that specific requirement. So these three areas are important for the ISMS, which is called as the information security triad, or maybe we can say information security pillars of the ISMS system. Now we may move into implementing the information security. As this session is only for the lead auditor, but now we need to understand that how this standards requirement has been implemented in the organization and whose role is important in this, key elements of this. So first of all, it's people who are more responsible towards the information security requirement, its implementation requirement too. So an awareness in the workforce is the best defense against the information security threats. The people who are responsible, people who are driving this entire activity of the ISMS with the help of technical systems, process policies and all, documentation part and technological part. So people must be aware about the current trends of the information security, so they can maintain the requirement of ISMS. Next pointers are referred to adequate policy and processes has been defined, so that people can follow that policy and processes, and wherever the technical controls, so right technology needs to be implemented for cost-effective information security requirement. So what are the technology which is being used and how this technology has to be maintained, requirement has to be maintained, that has to be defined in an adequate policy and procedures. So suitable policy and procedures needs to be implemented for effective information security requirement. So this PPT, or we can call them as a people, process and technology, it can be divided with the we can say weightage as a industry's practices, like a 50-30-20 rule. 50% it can be weightage has been given to people because people are more responsible to drive this entire activity with the help of process and technological requirements. So properly establish the security awareness and training programs, which definitely it's an advantage for the people as well as for the organization, which may pay huge dividends. Processes addresses the gaps between the people and technology. Now what are the activity which is going to be performed for this technology maintenance or technological requirement? That has to be adequately defined in the processes. And technological solutions also can be utilized to countermeasure to address the risk and data loss, whether it's intentional or internal threats. So technological requirement, adequate technology, as well as industry's best practices has to be followed to maintain the technological requirement too. Now let's just discuss about the ISO 27001 standard. This ISO 27001 2022 standards, which is going to be right now effective and applicable standards. Though there are some certain organizations, definitely this standard is a newer one. So there are some organizations are already certified by 2013 also. But right now this is going to be applicable and effective standards as far as applicabilities are concerned. ISO 27001 is the international standard that provides the guidelines and safeguarding the organization's assets. What are the assets of the organizations, wherever the scope is going to be applied for it. Earlier standard, as I was saying, that 13 was the previous standard. 2013 was the previous standard in the world and dedicated for the information security. This standard, the current standard ISO 27001-2022, is published in the October 22. Recently it has been published, and it is going to replace the requirement of the ISO 27001-2013. So right now also there are some certain organizations are already certified with 2013, and they made some changes in the standards that we will discuss shortly. So how the standard requirements are being addressed? Comprehensive set of clause and controls, okay, as a best practices, is defined in the standard. Along with that, framework for building a risk-based security management systems. So what are the risks are exist in the management systems that needs to be also addressed. So approach of information security risk management that has to be applied whenever this clause or controls are being followed, adhered by the organizations. So we will discuss on this, each and every clause and control also, and how it can be a risk also. Now, as far as the standards history, this standard is almost, we can say near to 25 plus years. We can say it was, established since 1995 by the Department of Trade and Industry Code Practices in the UK. Later on, gradually it was revised based on the industry's requirement. Like in 1998, they have renamed the standard, which is called as a 7799. Then they have adapted with the PS requirements, so British standard requirements. So major revision they have introduced in the BS 7799. Later on, it has been renamed with the 17799 in the year of 2000. But after this, ISO has adopted the standard requirement for the global practices, so it can be applied to any type, any size, any industry in the world. And they have introduced the structure, with the PDCA structure, like Plan, Do, Check, Act. As far as the PDCA requirement, that has been addressed. In the year of 2005, they have revised it, the ISO 27001-2005 standards. In the year of 2013, they made once again a revision. With the year they called it as a 2013 ISO 27001-2013. And this 2013 standard is going to be applicable up to next year, up to October 23 only. Because recently the ISO 27001-2022 has been released, and that is going to be mandatory after the October 23. Though even right now also ISO 27000-2022 is applicable and effective in case if any organization wants to adapt and implement and maintain the requirement of ISO 27001-2022 standard. So this was just a brief history, about the standard. Now, why this kind of requirements are required, or why this kind of practices are required to be followed? Sorry. There are some certain threats and vulnerabilities are always exist in the management system. So to ensure that maybe a malware, virus, spyware, that kind of programs, that kind of threats and vulnerabilities are going to be a risk for the organization. Cloud security. as the trend is increasing for the cloud platforms or cloud services. But cloud platform or cloud services are a secured one. That has to be ensured by the organization. Phishing and social engineering. So that also needs to be understand that okay, phishing email, social engineering activities, ransomware. So ransomware, the industry is suffering for these issues. Okay, since last couple of years for the ransomware, data loss. Any data has been lost due to technical, non-technical issues. Password attacks. This is we can say one of the example for the unauthorized access. So password has been compromised or password stolen, password theft. The end user or insider threats. So those end users, those who are working for the organizations, employees, non-employees, contractual employees of the organization. Distributed denial, DOS attacks, DDoS attacks, technical issues of the specific applications, web applications, or the maybe websites, or any other services which are available in the public domain. SQL injections. These are also some of the technical areas where the information can be theft, stolen. Form jacking. So these are the we can say common threats according to the trends in the industry. These are the common threats, and that is going to be protected. So the information security management systems are required to be followed, and it has to be protected with this kind of a threats and all. So in continuation with the current trends, which are general trends refer to information security, what are the other parameters or other requirements of the information security? That also we may need to look into this, like a disclosure of the confidential information, what we have seen earlier. These are the common threats. For the organization, customer data is important. As an example, organizations own financial informations, company's business strategy, their business plans, budget plans, that is important. So in case if this kind of information has been disclosed, so it can be a concern area for the organization. It's an information security breach for the organization. Next can be a hacking. Now this is a illegally breaking into system, like maybe suppose someone is accessing the company's information internally or externally to the organization. Those who are not intended for it, but it's a like a virus attack, any kind of like a ransomware attack. That may be also one of the example. Unauthorized access. It can be happen with the help of password sharing, or password has been stolen, password theft. Unauthorized entry, physical area to that sense, physical security issues. Entry to the sensitive area, confidential zone, restricted zone in the office. Either it can be a strong room, or it can be a legal documents where it has been kept like a strong rooms. It can be a CCTV surveillance areas. It can be a data center, server rooms, where maybe it may be a restricted area. Suppose sometime visitors are accessing those areas. As per the justification, they may require to do so, but they can enter into that area with the under monitoring of the organization's team member, or someone has to escort them, in case if they are accessing those areas and all. information theft, asset theft, stolen, like IT equipment parts, computer parts, some critical project reports, or any customer documents which has been theft or stolen from the office or from the premises, wherever the information security management systems applies. And the calamities like natural calamities, fire, flood, earthquake, these are the common threats for the organization. So these common threats can be addressed. These common threats, protection for these common threats can be addressed with the help of information security management systems. Now there can be some other issues in the organization, some common organization concerns in the secure environment. Provision and demonstration of the secure environments to the client. The services which are being provided by the organization to the customers, that specific environment has to be secured one. Security between the projects, information sharing between the projects for competing the clients. So like information security checklist, project checklist. Protection of the intellectual property. Organization may have intellectual property rights that may be very much sensitive for the organization. So in case if any security concerns on those IP rights, intellectual property rights, there may be a loss of product knowledge to external attacks or maybe internal thefts and all. Leak of confidential information to the competitions. So they may compromise with their IP rights, intellectual property rights. Access control. Ease of access to a large mobile workforce. Organization may have a large mobile workforce. Either they are on-roll employees, contractual employees, or maybe some third-party employees are maybe accessing those information. And leakage of these informations. So information while on transit to the customer over the network, like emails with the attachment, or how this information is being transferred securely. So in generally, in IT, generally they call them as a secure FTP services, or through the chat. Okay, maybe something like as an example, like a WhatsApp chat, or maybe some Slack channels which are being used, or we can say storage devices where the information has been stored. So who has access on those areas wherever the informations are being stored or being transmitted? So these are also common organizations concerns. Now there can be some employee concerns too. The people who are working for that organization, they may have a question that whether they can share the passwords or not. So as per the organization's information security policies, password policies, passwords are not required to share with the others. Can I bring the visitors to my work areas? So ideally speaking, if they are not required to do so to access your work area, so it can be prohibited, it can be restricted. In case if any business justifications are there, like we discussed earlier, refer to, suppose if any vendors, contractors, or any maintenance service providers, if they have to access those areas, they can, but with the monitoring and escorting those visitors, okay, or those vendors. So someone has to escort them. How should I report a security incident? So information security incident. Suppose if any security incidents occurred in the organization, employee must aware that okay, whom should they report? So or no, with which mode? I mean to say with the contact numbers, email IDs, any online platform like a ticketing systems, etc. Maybe a couple of more examples like, can I share the customer confidential material with the other projects? Now the other project team members are intended to access those project material, project information. They are authorized to do so. So as per the authorization or as per the business requirement, this information can be shared. Otherwise, it can be secured one. Now, needs of the information security, as we have seen the, we can say employee concerns, organizations concerns. So as we are looking into this, nowadays outsourcing model is increasing, or we can say third party external service providers, external providers model is increasing. And new technologies are also coming up. So exposures are on a higher side. Okay. Organizations information which is required to be protected for in that specific segment or specific area. The other pointers are concerned, organizations are nowadays using the social media platform too for the customer support or to brand or to market their services. So social networking, cloud computing, this kind of services are also being increased, services are being increased, usage has been increased. So they have to ensure that what are the risks which are there, in these areas. Even personal devices. During this pandemic era, remote access or maybe employee may use their personal devices for the official purpose. So how that controls are being applied to those specific personal devices, that also to be considered by the organization. According to some surveys, companies are taking a proactive stance, as a 46% companies indicated that their annual investment of the information security is increasing. As per the current trends, as per the the recent threats or information security threats, we can say so. Skill upgradation of the employees, technological upgradation, so that's also important. So due to that, budgets are also being increased to maintain and to manage the information security requirement. Now the people who are responsible for this, or people who are working on this, ideally speaking, the IT team, those who are corely working on these specific areas to protect the information, they always face new challenges, new threats, new risk, okay, and that is required to be mitigated, minimized, okay, to reduce the risk exposures. So these are the few parameters which are important for the needs of the information security requirement. Now, who needs the SMS? As we have discussed, SMS stands for the Information Security Management Systems, and as we have seen, understand the purpose, the current trends, current threats. So some other way, every organization has to follow the information security practices, like our SMS practices. Either they might be banks, financial institutions, maybe contact centers like a BPO services, IT companies, definitely they may have to. Government organizations, nowadays government organizations are also gearing up to maintain the information security requirement. Manufacturing companies, some of the companies, those who are automated, they may have automated facilities, automated plants. Consultancy firm, because they may have we can say confidential data of their customers. Hospitals, like medical records of the patients. Schools and universities. Insurance companies, once again organizations, these kind of institutions may have their customers insurance related records. So these are the few examples only. There may be any type, any size, any industry can adapt to this requirement of the SMS and can be followed with that. Now, as far as this entire purpose, as we have seen, any type, any size, any industry can adapt this requirement of ISMS. So, purpose of the ISMS is people, process, and technology which are important. So it doesn't mean that information security is limited to only some specific control only, like antivirus. Antivirus is deployed doesn't mean that the system is secured. Now, how these systems are being used, services are being used, and which is exposed, or what other services are being rendered from that specific information asset, that's also important. So it depends on the effectiveness of the organizational processes also, how the organizational activities also, and the people who manages and follow them. It definitely helps the organization to coordinate all security efforts, electronic and physically both. Provides you a systematic approach for managing the risk and enables you to make informed decisions on security investment. So regular risk management, risk assessment activity has to be carried out to ensure that what are the risks right now it exists in that specific process. And these standard requirements can be integrated with the other standards also. It can be integrated with the other management systems like ISO 22301, Business Continuity Management Systems, ISO 9001, ISO even a 14001, because it has a high level structure, so it can be easily integrated. Okay, and some of the documentations can be common. Okay, so it doesn't require to maintain a multiple documentation for multiple standards. So effective approach to the corporate governance can be planned. Definitely it's going to create a better work practices that support the business goals. What are the business objectives as per their roles, asserting their roles and processes that have to be clearly attributed and adhered to. Now, what is the organization's business requirements are? What is their strategies? As per that, they can plan it out. What are their information security goals also? It requires ongoing maintenance and continual improvement, which ensures that the policies and procedures are kept up to date, resulting in better protection for your sensitive information. So it doesn't mean that the standard is implemented once the project is over or the task is completed. It is required to assess regularly, monitor and measure regularly to ensure that wherever the improvement may required, so it can be continually improvised. It gives the credibility to the staff, clients, so brand, company's brand, image, employee awareness to the information security, maybe a strategic partners, and it will give them the reputation, credibility, and we can say they can improvise with the help of this ISMS standard. It helps you to comply with the corporate governance requirement. So governance requirement can be built upon. I mean to say information security postures, governance can be built. It can be formally assessed and certified against ISO 27001, bringing additional benefits such as a demonstrable credentials, customer assurance and competitive advantage. So this standard is going to be certified by the certification bodies as per the organization's assessment, as per the organization's implementation and effectiveness status, I mean to say the assessment results and all. And based on that, companies may look into their information security controls requirement. What are the further more controls are required to be implemented? So these are the few examples refer to the purpose of the ISMS, understanding the purpose of the ISMS requirement. Now the advantage, like some of the pointers, like it is going to be come out from the purpose itself. Like we have seen, structured approach, systematic and structured approach has been applied in ISO 27001 standard. Improved understanding of the business aspects. So what are the company's goals, business objectives, and as per that, they may plan for the information security requirements too. Protects information from range of threats. So what are the threats which may exploit vulnerabilities? Opportunity to identify and find the weaknesses. So they can identify, okay, these are the potential weaknesses there in the system, and that can be fixed. Better incident management. So in case of any security incident occurred, employees, users can report for the information security requirements. Ensures business continuity. One small piece of requirement of business continuity also introduced in this standard. Minimize the financial losses, because the information is going to be protected, and this standard is more focusing on the proactive approach. Reduces the reputational risk. Reputational risk can be reduced. Company's brand image. Maximize return on investment, at some level. Increasing the business opportunity, new upcoming opportunity, potential opportunities can be increased as organization is following the best practices of the ISMS. Okay, they are certified one, so definitely their business opportunity also may get increased. Provide a confidence to the trading partners, their business strategical partners. Enhances the knowledge and importance of the security issues at a company level. So at an organization level, from top management to the executive level and user level, the information security postures, requirements, governance requirements can be followed, can be adhered, and they can ensure that, okay, these are the requirements are being followed. So they are going to improvise their skill set, they are going to improvise their knowledge, their competency also in the ISMS requirement. Now, as far as the end user role is concerned, end user role is very much important. And being an auditor, we need to identify that, okay, what are the end users' role? We will have a quick overview on the end user's requirement, as we have seen some time back, the practices which has to be followed by the end user. So first of all, who is responsible? Ideally speaking, we all are responsible. So in an organization, those who are working for that organization, either they are on-roll employees, they are contractual employees, they are strategic partners employees, maybe a third-party employees, maybe consultant. Everyone is responsible for the ISMS, for the information security requirement. There may be some certain myths or misconceptions can be, maybe consultants, okay, or strategic partners, or our contractors. So everyone is responsible for that. So it doesn't mean that only the responsibility of the IT, or it is the responsibility of only information security team. So it's everyone must be responsible. So that kind of a culture, that kind of a requirement has to be addressed, communicated to all the employees. Now, the requirement refer to information security policy, which is to be defined as per the requirement of ISO 27001 standard. Organization has to define this policy requirement. This is a high-level policy requirement. It is, they have to define, established, to be communicated, implemented in the organization. So what can be included in this? As in IT services, organization owe to protect the organization's business information. So organization has to protect their business information, what are critical for them. As we have seen earlier, which are the information assets, which has some business value. Intellectual property. Organization may have some intellectual property according to their business operations. Customer supplied information within our custody by establishing an appropriate level of safeguards to ensure confidentiality, integrity and availability. So In case suppose any organization may have a customer's information access also, customer supplied information. So customer might have given their data, their information, that also required to be safeguarded. Safeguarded with what? Confidentiality, integrity and availability requirement along with the continual improvement. And this will be achieved through a risk management framework based on the international standards. So what are the risks which are associated? So risks are important. Risks are required to be assessed, to be addressed, to be mitigated or to be reduced at a critical intervals. So these are the requirements. Okay, with the continual improvement, it has to be applied in their information security policy. Now we may look into the information asset classification. As we have seen earlier that which are the informations and that is required to be protected, like with the help of CIA. Now these informations are being stored at where? Those information are being stored at some assets. So information assets, asset which has an tangible or intangible thing or a characteristic that has a value to that organization. Now it has some certain value. Maybe as a customer data, customer forms, bills, maybe some contracts, IT elements like a database, IT hardware, application softwares, system software, development tools and technologies, or any documents, or even audit reports, audit trails, which are also important for the organizations. Now, who is going to decide this? These informations are critical and important according to the sensitivity of that information. So, who is going to be owner of that asset? So, person who has a fiduciary responsibility for that asset. He or she might be aware about that, that assets importance, that information assets importance. So that's why first of all it's required to classify it. What is the reason for this classification? To protect and secure as per the criticality and sensitivities. So why it is required? To ensure that what is the sensitivity of that specific information asset? Helps to meet the regulatory and legal requirement. Sometimes some legal and regulatory requirement, law of the land requirement also to be applied as per the regulated business operation requirement. Helps meet the requirement of the industry standards as per the we can say their line of business and what is the industry's requirements are, that also to be required to be addressed as per the applicabilities. So these are just some of the understanding about the information asset classification. Now we may look into some classification examples also. These are the just information asset classifications as an examples only. These are not a static one that these are only the things has to be followed like this. But organization can determine their own that what are the information assets which are important for the organization. They may use like a categories like a public or internal or a confidential, maybe highly confidential or a secret, etc. Now in this they can segregate this requirement as per their business requirement, as per their information assets which are sensitive and critical. So we have seen some time back that why to classify? So what are the pointers has to be considered for it? So in a public data there may be some time we can say regular news bulletins, periodicals, sometime audited results, financial results, some press media release are required to be to be published in a public domain. Some informations can be internal within the organization, maybe with the employees or maybe approved non-employees. such as a contractors, trainees. Maybe this can be like internal communication, like a staff memos, maybe some newsletters, employee awareness programs, staff awareness programs. Confidential informations, maybe this is a less sensitive, related to the business, is intended to use by the employees, its other business units, and approved non-employees such as the contractors. So they may classify that, okay, this this information may be a confidential, but yeah, it can be available to a limited set of non-employees. Either it can be printed in a hard copy format, or maybe something like departmental memos, maybe some process, work program, some schedules, etc. and all. Information that is sensitive and related to project and personnel is intended to use by the employees, customer, and approved non-employees such as contractors, trainees, can be printed in a hard copy format only with the approval of the HODs. So this can be highly confidential too, which may have some personal information like employee data. There can be employees' personal information might be stored. Business plans, unpublished financial statement. These are the unaudited or unpublished financial results. This may be available to only some specific set of people. As an example, like a finance or maybe top management team. Some information can be secret to the organization. So those informations can be, that is highly sensitive within the and outside to the organization. It shall be applied to the documented information leakage of which can cause damage to the even a company's or national security also. So like a company's project design document or maybe a product design document, drawings, okay, some network diagram or some product architecture diagram, contracts, some lease contract, customer contract, vendor contracts. So these are very much critical for the organization. So organization's team can define the classification as per their business requirement. And this is one of the control requirement too in the ISO 27001 standard to classify the assets. Now we may take that some few examples of the, we can say, which is referring to best practices which has to be followed by the organization. We don't have to, we can say, implement this, but being an auditor, we have to verify this, that okay, how much employees are aware about this kind of a practices in the organization. So as an example, like a password security. Employee must follow the organization's password security policies, or we can say password policies. So these are the best practices. Now the values may change also. So as an example, it is mentioned that password has to be changed at 45 days. Organization may have maybe 30 days also, maybe 60 days also, maybe 90 days also. But best practices has to be followed, and whatever they have defined in their password policies. Like a minimum 8 characters, it's the industry's best practices. But in case, suppose if any organization is following a 10 characters or 12 characters, that also fine, but it has to be followed accordingly. Password is not required to be shared. So this kind of a do's and don'ts guidelines. Don't use a dictionary password, very much simple passwords, family member names, etc. Never write your own password to remember on a piece of paper or somewhere. That can be, we can say, threat for the password sharing or password access by unauthorized people. Don't reveal a password in email, chat, or any other communication. So that also we have to ensure that these kind of requirements are being followed in the organization. Now these are the few examples only, just to know how much long time it takes, just to crack the password. So it's better to have the complexity of the password has to be followed. and complex password has to be used, password to be changed at a regular intervals. Now there may be some other threats also, like as we have discussed earlier, like a malware. So organization must have implemented anti-malware, anti-spyware solutions, like antivirus solutions too. So for viruses, for spywares, which they can steal the information silently. Adwares, any software or any utilities which may used by the hackers. Okay, as an adware, suppose if any employee or any user is just using any software which are unauthorized or maybe browsing any websites. So adware may use that their browsing history, their usage history and target them according to their interest. So they profile generally what is advertised on your computers. Trojans which may hide in the computer and steal the information silently once again. So we need to ensure that they may have a best practices as followed to protect from the malwares and how they are aware about this in case if any virus attack or malware attack may happen. Now one of the more threats which are one of the best practices to be followed for spams also. Spam is an unsolicited email broadcasted indiscriminately to multiple mailing lists and individuals or news groups. Maybe sometimes some specific users or maybe specific set of users has been targeted with the spam mailers, by the spam mailers. So what employee has to do? Employee has to do this means what the employee's next course of action for in case if they have received a spam mails. So never reply to a spam or share any personal information on those emails. Don't buy anything from that spam mails. Be careful while opening that email attachment because sometimes some email has been received on by the untrusted sources. Share your email address to only the people you are aware about with them, people you may know. And don't make a chain of this communication. Don't forward an email from someone you maybe not, maybe know to a list of people and all that, Email security, this is one of the requirements that, email services which is being provided by the organization to the employees, to the users. But so what are the do's and don'ts guidelines they need to follow? They must have defined some policy for this. So few do's and don'ts examples are there right now in front of you. First of all the email of the company's information system is a property of the company. So it has to be used for the business purpose only. Open email attachments that come from the trusted source only, not from the untrusted one. Be extremely cautious of email asking about for the confidential information. Suppose someone is asking confidential information, we need to ensure that why it has been asked and what level of information which are being shared to them. Confirm the authenticity of a suspicious request before responding in any emails. Avoid chain or spam mailings and all. Don't use your personal email accounts for official communication. For official communication, we need to use the official email ID only. If you suspect any email is a spam, do not respond, just delete it. Yeah, but definitely it's required to inform too also. Transmitting offensive material like a political opinion, pornography, sexual harassment material, etc. Spamming, unsolicited messages, promotions, and making them a chain of communication, so that can be avoided. Or we can say creating, sending, receiving or storing the materials that infringe the copyright or other intellectual property right of any third parties. So this type of some common practices has to be followed in the organization, do's and don't guidelines, and that is to be aware by the employees too. It has to be informed to the employees. I think clear desk and clear screen, these policies must be defined in the organization. So employee must follow this requirement and ensure that confidential items or confidential informations are not being stored, okay, not being displayed on their desk or maybe their computer screens. Mobile users, now this trend is increasing, so there maybe they can define some best practices. What are the security settings may require on the mobile devices? Do not allow the devices to automatically connect to unknown wireless connections. So auto connect to the any wireless connection, so that can be disabled. So that Wi-Fi connection may be untrusted also, or maybe unknown. Okay, so they may have some malicious program, some hacking program, and may steal the information from the mobile device. Beware of phishing. Don't receive unsolicited calls, texts, IMs, instant messaging, emails, URLs, etc. Devices must be encrypted, so use encryption and or password protection security features. Use a strong password, so password must be stronger one. Never leave the device to unattended mode. So these are some best practices to be followed for the mobile device users. Now there can be social media platform users too. As we were discussing earlier that now some of the organizations have started the customer support on the social media platform. So what are the social media platform, how they are using it? Individual must be aware that okay, they are using it from mobile devices, so security setting must be there. Be aware that individuals online may not be who they claim to be. So the comments or platforms or post which is being used, okay, on those social media platform, that can be accessed by the others also. It doesn't mean that it has been communicated to only a certain set of people. Be familiar with and configure the security and privacy settings to protect your user profile and informations. So that employee must have to ensure that that user profile is protected, secured. Assume that information posted on a social media site is on internet even if you have restricted to certain users. So once information has been shared on a social, we can say on the internet, it may be accessible by the others too. Know the reputation, terms of usage of the agreement and security risk before you start using a social media platform. So employee must aware about the terms and conditions of the social media platform. Use a strong password to secure a social media accounts and change them, as an example, like 30 days, 45 days, etc. So best practice can be followed for the social media users too. There may be a social engineering practice also being followed by the organization. So how employees are aware about the social engineering? So there are two main categories for this. Okay, one is a computer or technology based deceptions and one is a human deception too. So sometimes some emails, some online links has been shared. So the employees, users can access through their systems, computers. Sometimes some through the voice call support. Trying to get the information from the human resources, I'm to say employees and users. So avoid discussing the sensitive information with the others in a public domain. Do not give out sensitive information over email, telephone without a proper verifications of the identity. Suppose if any employee is sharing there's some confidential information about the company or maybe a project or task, they need to ensure that either these people are authorized to get that information or not. Always be sure of the other person's identity when you receive a call which you are not expecting. So we need to verify the identity also before we disclose any confidential information. When discussing any important business issues, make sure no one else is listening it. Definitely, it has to be discussed accordingly as per the sensitivity of that information requirement. Now, there may be physical security areas also which are important, because that controls are also important. Maybe suppose if any printer has been used. So employee must ensure that they are collecting their printouts timely manner and collect any documents intended, maybe sometime if it is being used through fax or something. They must use a shredder to dispose any unwanted documents, unwanted printouts. Make sure there is no removable media lying unattended around your workstations. So any storage media like a flash drives, pen drives, or we can say the other points are concerned like any critical sensitive informations and in a printed paper also are not lying. Any documents or media containing a confidential information should be kept in a locked drawers. If asked to participate in an evacuation drill, fire drill, evacuation drill to be conducted, so definitely they must have to participate in that and follow the guidelines requirement. Okay. Physical security requirement, other point is like a server room must be keep it closed, especially for the people who are working in a system server room. Security guards and various access control must be in place. So access control to be used. Company ID card always to be carried. Whenever any visitor is, or vendor or service provider is going to access that area, escort them. Never leave the entry gate open, especially with the security guards. Tailgating, that has to be, they have to ensure that tailgatings are prohibited, not to be used. Never share your ID card with the others. Company ID card, company access card not required to be shared with the others. Now, cyber security incidents, these are the information security segment, these are also important. So, any security incident, that means a real or potential security event which causes a harmful impact to the company's business operations. Okay, and that is going to be, may happen to we can say may happen to impact the company's business information. So some of the examples like a misuse of the information asset, falsifications of the information, unauthorized change, someone has modified, manipulated records, theft, damage, destructions of the asset, any device, any asset has been theft, stolen. Weakness in the manual or IT systems. There is maybe some potential weakness which could lead to a loss of information. That can be a potential weakness. Missing file on the desk and computers. Sometime back we have seen that, okay, clear desk, clear screen. So sometimes some specific information has been not available, misplaced. Unescorted visitor wandering in the premises. So any vendors or contractors, third-party resources are maybe not escorted one. Okay, and they might be accessing some sensitive areas. Virus and spyware hacking attempts. So this also can be a security incident. System malfunctioning, loss or theft of data. Either failed or unsuccessful attempt to gain unauthorized access to the data. So someone has tried to access the data in an unauthorized way, maybe internally or externally, and violation of the organization's security policy. So these all are some other way the information security incidents of the organization. And now what are the do's and don'ts for this? Suppose in this type of information security incident occurred, or maybe an event occurred. So, organization employee must be vigilant about this. They should report the security incident to their security incident help desk their portal, maybe with the help of ticketing systems, contact numbers, any portals, they can contact IT or their security team who are responsible for the physical security or maybe a IT security requirements. Don'ts. What can be a don'ts requirements over here? That can be don't discuss security incidents anyone outside to the organization. Those who are not intended for it. Once again, that can be a potential weakness, of the organization's information security posture. Don't attempt to prevent anyone from the reporting to the incident. So everyone should report it. Never talk to media person unless authorized. So as per the authorization, only authorized people can share the security incident requirement in a media. So these are the few requirements referred to best practices which is to be followed by the organization's employee, their contractors or their vendors, their third-party resources, to ensure that they are following the SMS requirement. And being an auditor, we need to assess that how much they are aware about this type of practices. So these are the few example-based practices I have stated out here. But being an auditor, first of all, identify that what are the information security awareness program they may have it in the organization, and what are the policy procedures are defined for it, and how it has been communicated or trained to the employees. So these are the requirement what we discussed since beginning. It was referred to SMS standard, information and information assets requirement, 3 core areas like information securities. 3 core areas are like confidentiality, integrity and availability. Purpose of the SMS, benefits of the SMS, standard histories, ISO 27001 standard history, and as well as best practices to be followed, to be communicated within the organization to maintain and manage the information security management systems as per ISO 27001 standard. So in continuation with this, we may discuss on the ISO 27001 clause and controls. So we may discuss about the clause and controls of the ISO 27001 standard.